And Phil, maybe you can, I know you've talked about this before, so maybe you can dig that.
Yeah, and you're asking the gear junkie, right? Who's got everything.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Your answer was you need 3 of everything, but yeah, just generally.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, you can do very, very well there with 5 or 6 weight, or even a little lighter if you want to go 4 weight. It depends. Wind is an impact there as well. Obviously, fish size, but there's enough to keep that going. And with a floating line, it'll allow you to fish on the surface with dries and emergers.
That was Phil Rowley breaking down some of his Stillwater magic. Heading to Kamloops, BC, Skitchine style today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
We've always got a giveaway going, and this one today we're going to dig into a little bit. Wetflyswing.com/giveaway is your chance to win this trip today to Skitchine Lodge. And we talk a little bit about it today, but if you just want to go straight up and connect and get onto this trip, you can bypass the giveaway and just go right now and get that trip. I'm going to actually be heading there. So if you want to fish with me on the Stillwater with Phil Roy, I am super stoked about this. One of the best out there. Up your game. If you have any interest in Stillwater at all, this is a super awesome opportunity, and would love to see you there. So you can enter the giveaway, do that for sure, because if you win it, you get it for free. But also, you can sign up for the trip right now as well. That way, you can get your spot. I think we're only doing like 10 spots. 10 spots for this bad one, for this bad boy. And but if you got other ideas for other trips you want to do, I would love to hear from you. Phil Roy and Dwight Jefferson are here to shed some light on the new Stillwater School they have going at Skitchine Lodge. We find out a little more about Skitchine, what it's all about, how it's different from a lot of the Kamloops area fisheries with these wild rainbows. And we talk about how they target them on the surface and just under the surface. Pretty cool thing with these wild fish. And plus, the normal tips and tricks from Phil. LakeLady Rods builds distinctive custom rods, each created one at a time to the exact specifications for each angler. LakeLady only uses top-of-the-line products and components. Just ask some of the governors, senators, and generals Chris has produced rods for, including Jesse Ventura. Please head over to wetflyswing.com/LakeLady to check out these one-of-a-kind custom rods now. That's wetflyswing.com/LakeLady. A lake a day for as long as you stay. So without further ado, here is Dwight Jefferson and Phil Rowley from skitchine.com. How's it going, guys?
Fabulous. How are you, Dave?
Yeah. It's
Good.
going well.
Good.
Going well.
Yeah, great to have you both on here. We got Phil. Obviously, you've been on here a couple times. You're our Stillwater guru. Whenever we have questions on the Stillwater, we take it to you. And Dwight, you're with Skitchine Lodge, which we're going to dig into today a little bit on what you have going with a big giveaway, a big Stillwater School package, and all of that. But before we jump into it, we've heard a lot from Phil. We know his background. Dwight, why don't you start us off and talk a little bit about your background, who you are, and how you're connected to Skitchine?
Okay, well, I'm a guy who was sitting at a charity auction one night, and my brother-in-law had too many drinks and paid too much for a fishing trip to a place called Skitchine Lodge. And up until that point in my life, I'd fished off the back of the family boat and caught a few salmon because I live out in coastal British Columbia. But he dragged us up to this place we'd never heard of to do something we'd never done, which was called fly fishing. And long story short, I liked it so much, I bought the lodge.
Wow.
And that's a huge exaggeration because the lodge is actually owned by a group of like-minded fly fishermen. Right now we have about 23 partners, and we all pitch in to keep the thing running. We are a seasonal fly fishing lodge sitting in Bonaparte Provincial Park in beautiful British Columbia on a plateau about 5,000 feet above sea level. Got 15 lakes for 14 guests, and we're open from June 1st up until about the 20th of September. Prior to June 1st, there's so much snow you can't even get up there. And on the 20th of September, give or take 24 hours, the pipes all freeze and it's time to go home. That particular trip launched for me a new lifetime passion, and turned me into a fly fisherman. Cold water, warm water. I've fished a lot of places for a lot of different species, and like the rest of us, own far more equipment than my wife knows about, and it's absolutely become my passion.
There you go. There you go. Like a lot of us, and I know Phil has the same story. I'll put a link out to Phil's past episodes. They were good. But Phil, give us a quick snippet for people that don't know you or haven't heard you yet. Who are you, and how are you connected to Skitchine?
Well, I'm a fly fishing, like Dwight. I fell in love with fly fishing. I've been doing it for 35 plus years, but I jokingly say, if it swims or eats, I'll chase it with a fly. But my real passion is stillwater fly fishing. That's what is my favorite aspect of the sport. So I spend a lot of time chasing trout and other species in lakes all over North America, South America. I do schools. I've written 4 books. I've done DVDs. Anything to do with stillwater fly fishing, yeah. I'm in on it.
That's it, yeah, and we've done a few Stillwater episodes, and I know Brian Chan is a big partner, and some of you know yep. well. He's been up there. We did one on Kamloops, actually. I'll put a link to that one as well, and that's what we're talking about here, right? We're in the Kamloops area.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Skitchine Lodge is about an hour northwest of Kamloops. As the crow flies, takes a little longer, but you access it by car. Once you're up at the top of the logging road on the plateau and on the edge of the provincial park, it's a wilderness preserve with no motor vehicle access, no way in except on foot, or when we take you in on one of our ATVs. We are basically about as remote and off the grid as you can get, while still seeing the lights of Kamloops in the twilight on the occasional clear night.
There you go. So this is pretty remote. So if somebody's coming in there, let's say somebody was coming in from, down in the lower 48 down here, what's that like to get up there? Is that pretty simple? Talk about that. Tell us if we want to head up there. Are people driving up there? What's that look like?
Yeah, anybody from Vancouver, you are 5 hours door to door from Vancouver International Airport to the pickup for the lodge. Kamloops, of course, has an airport for domestic, so you can connect and grab a car in Kamloops and come up. I get a lot of people coming in from Calgary and Edmonton by vehicle, and another option for people coming up internationally is to fly into Calgary International and drive out, or Calgary and connect into Kamloops. So pretty straightforward. But from Vancouver, which is sort of the most common way to get in there, 5 hours door to door after you land in Vancouver.
There you go. So pretty easy to get up there, sounds like.
Yeah, and the roads are all good. Lots of people come up and in cars that you wouldn't want to put on a logging road. And right. The only trouble anybody ever had was when they lost their keys.
Yeah,
that's right.
And, no, the road's great in there. Really, really easy access, kind of scenic when you're driving along that little creek or river, Dwight.
There's this park was Crown land when the lodge originally started. About 52 years ago, a group of like-minded people came up, built some cabins, and it was pretty rudimentary at first, but over the years, it's evolved into a partnership. As I said, a bunch of people who love fly fishing. Running the lodge each year costs us about what we charge to guests from the public to come up. Although it's privately owned by a bunch of partners, it does sit in what is now a provincial park and wilderness preserve. And a requirement of anybody operating in those things is that it's available to the public. And so this is a combination of coming up to a place that feels like home, that is also available to anybody who wants it. And so, we like to think we feel a little less commercial than a lot of other options in the stillwater fishing world. But we have how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 pieces of infrastructure up there. We've got cabins that sleep 4 in, with 2 per room with ensuite bathrooms. We have room for 2 cabins that sleep 4, and we've got room for 6 more in the lodge in 3 bedrooms. It's all off the grid, so we run on solar and the occasional assist from our friendly generators. And we also have a phenomenal chef. And so you're not roughing it in any way, shape, or form. It's a lovely high-end place to show up, feel like you're at home, and get great food and spectacular stillwater fishing.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, and the food is obviously key. I'm curious, and we're going to dig into a little bit on the lodge and the fishing here in a bit. And maybe, Phil, you could take us there. I'm just thinking Kamloops. Again, people hear about Kamloops, but maybe people don't know. There's stillwater all over the place, right? All over the world. I just talked to somebody in Norway who said their stillwater fishing is amazing over there. But talk about Kamloops. Why is Kamloops different maybe than some other stillwater areas?
Well, as you pointed out, there's definitely a lot of fantastic lakes scattered all over this planet. That's helps feed my love for stillwater fly fishing. But the Kamloops area is just a perfect blend of just the way the geography shaped the land and the lakes it created. As Ice Age receded, these lakes are generally pretty shallow and small and very productive. So the nutrients that come into these lakes, stay in the lakes. They're not flushed out quickly, so they get to settle in, and then that creates a nice fertile substrate bottom for weeds and plants to grow, which provides habitat. Just the perfect amount of rainfall, the perfect amount of sunlight, all the little variables that go into making a great stillwater are found there. And there's lots of lakes. I think one of the tourism slogans in that region for many years has been a lake a day for as long as you stay. So it's just a perfect place. And of course, Skitchine is settled right in amongst that. And I think what makes Skitchine unique is the wild fish that are there. These are fish that are naturally reproducing. Some of the other lakes, and it's no disrespect to them by any stretch, are maintained through stocking because they're landlocked, because the rainbows and trout need moving water to spawn. But these guys have got the perfect balance up at Skitchine. So you've got these beautiful wild rainbows. They can get to be a good size, but that wildness, they're feisty. They punch well above their weight. And because they're natural as well, what makes them a little different from some of the stock fish is they love to come to the surface and eat. And that's the one thing about stillwater fishing generally, that at least in my travels I see, is you don't always get that opportunity to take fish on top. Usually it's subsurface presentations, and of course they certainly work at Skitchine, but boy, it's sure nice to go to one of the surrounding lakes of Skitchine or even Dagger, where Skitchine is located on, and toss out a dry. And even though there's nothing really hatching, usually there's somebody willing and able to come up and give you some good surface fun.
There it is. So dry fly. Yeah. And I know, Phil, you have a ton of tips with, the chironomids and all the stuff under the surface. But I mean, so when people go up here, potentially in June, there's going to be some dry fly action.
Yeah, there should be, mayfly, calabatus be around, caddis coming off, probably some damsel activity. There's always, a little bit of breeze, some little beetle or ant gets in a place it shouldn't be. And of course, chironomids, these fish are just, I think Dwight can speak to it better, just conditioned to look up for lunch every once in a while.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been up there about 20 years, and sort of the evolution of the dry fly side of it. Back, this is mostly pine forest when we were up there, and back before the pine beetles came through, I would confidently tell you we have nice caddis hatches, and even in June, things are looking very good on the surface. And after the pine forests were taken out by the pine beetle, the caddis there's less caddis, but the fish have never seemed to care. The fish. If there isn't a caddis hatch, you can create your own. And now, 20 years later, we're seeing, those hatches come back. But as Phil says, when you get a chironomid hatch going on up there, there's nothing like it. And, that's when you can have days where the number of fish you catch just depends on how quickly you can get your line back in the water. So it's a lot of fun.
That's it. So maybe we can I want to get into a few little Stillwater tips of getting ready to fish it. And let's take it to, people listening here, might not know about this area or this lake. You said Dagger Lake specifically, but we're also doing a Stillwater school, right? This is part of this thing that we're putting together. So let's start there. Let's talk about, first of all, so we don't miss that, on this school. What does this look like for somebody who, if they want to do it, how is this different than just like, getting a room and going up there and going fishing at the lake?
What's different is they're going to be, once they arrive, we'll settle them in and get some food in them. And then we'll start, as we do with every day, there will be a Stillwater focused seminar that is unique and appropriate and accurate for what we're at Skitchine. So they'll have the ability to learn and then learn on the job, if you will. They can go out, they can experience it. Myself and another person who's working with me on this, Greg, will be there as a resource. So they don't have to go on the voyage of discovery by themselves. I find in the Stillwater schools I do, one of the benefits is because we can all come together at any point in the day or in the evening and have a little debrief. We're all working on the same problem, as opposed to everybody's off on their own little section and trying to figure it all out. We're all working together, and the enjoyment just comes in, and the camaraderie that these schools build typically within the first night. Everybody, because we're all like-minded, we're all there for the same reasons, and everybody just gels, and it's a lot of good friendships have come from these types of schools, right, Dwight? Everybody just sort of bonds together, and it's really neat to watch that dynamic develop, and as quickly as it does.
I arrived on the last night of Phil's school last year to the lodge, and I got there just before dinner time. And, what I saw was a dozen really, really happy people who had a lot of fun. And we can talk about this a little more later, but, we're always open to bringing on new partners. We have a couple of categories of membership. And, I know the results of that were that we now got a couple of new members of our adventure club. So, people who come to Skitchine, just like I did the first time, they love it. They keep coming back. And that's, in fact, how our partnership is built. It's just people who get up there, say, hey, I want to be part of this. Said, we got 15 lakes for 14 guests. You can be all alone on a lake for the whole day, or we've got boats on all the lakes, and well-equipped boats. So, as Phil said, Dagger Lake's big lake. I think we got 10 boats on it, and everybody in the lodge can be on one lake, or you can be on your own lake. And the only other, living being you'll see is either under the water or in the sky, or on the dock growling
maybe a bear.
Growling at you. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I've multiple times I've been fishing and had a moose swim by as they cross the lake.
Oh, cool.
It's a pretty wonderful place.
Yeah, there's definitely no urbanization up there. That's for sure. It's just a pretty good place to sort of lose yourself and sort of what's important in life, a reset off.
And that's the cool thing here, Phil, is that you have the flexibility to, you can kind of lose yourself, or, for me, I think of this like, the chance to sit there and fish with you side by side with you is a huge thing, right? Because we're talking about Stillwater School. So let's do a little bit of like day one, just to walk people through. So like you said, we come down, we get some great food, we're ready to go, we get on the water. And so what is that first day? Is that what we're doing? Is we're getting out there like morning, the first day, and you're sitting there doing like a little session?
Yeah. What typically happens is they would, the day of arrival, everybody sort of trickles in according to their travel schedules. And then the first night's dinner kicks it off. So once everybody's digesting and open to suggestion. I provide an orientation session, sort of, housekeeping stuff and what's going on and what their week's going to look like, plus a little snapshot of where we are in the season and where the lakes are and how they're behaving. Because although they're called still waters, they're really not. They're always in some form of flux. So we want to make sure we're, targeting the right waters and what to expect as far as hatches and go over the gear and all the things so they're ready to go the next morning. So after breakfast, I do another little session. Always do my sessions in the morning because everybody's wide awake and, prepared for the day. And then obviously we go out, we're going to obviously target lakes that have been, being particularly playful. So that could be the main lake on Dagger. It could be, one of the other satellite lakes around, and we sort of break up into groups and teams. So make sure everybody's supported. Somebody's there with them. But there's always guests that love to go off by themselves, and that's fine too. So it's very flexible as far as what people want to do and how they want to do it. And that's sort of how every day comes. Everybody then fishes for the day. We come in, we have dinner again. We have a little debrief. As well, a chance, a little less formal, but a chance to what worked, what sizzled, what fizzled, those kind of things, so people can apply that to their learning as well. Because a lot of it is, the learning is a little bit, obviously we're going to guide them and set them up for as much success as we can, but also that they get to discover themselves, because a lot of times they'll find out, discover little tricks and nuances that nobody else knew, or adapted something, and then we all learn from that experience. So, and then it culminates on the last night with a dinner, and we have a little fun event for them. Something they can remember their entire week by, and a chance for them to really provide us with some feedback. So, every time we do these, we just continue to grow and develop and improve all the time. So it just gets better and better. So.
And are people coming up there for, typically, how long are they staying? You've got the school, but just typically when people come up there, are they staying for like a day or a week, or what's that look like?
Yeah, most of the guests who are partners will come up there for a partnership unit gets you 15 nights. So, and whether guys, use that on their friends or use all 15 nights themselves is up to them. But we've got guys that stay up there a week. That's not unusual at all. I don't think you don't want to come up there for one night, because you'll be disappointed you have to leave. You can't explore enough of the property. All these lakes are an easy hike. Most of the lakes are within 5 minutes of Dagger Lake. So you may cross Dagger Lake in a boat to another dock and then wander a trail. But the furthest away, the furthest you're ever going to have to hike will be 25, 30 minutes. And they're all within about 150 to 300 feet of elevation of one another. So for most people, it's easy to get around, and as I said, there's lots of places to explore. So a 2 or 3 night minimum to get a sense of what this place is like. That said, because we're an hour from Kamloops, and because our chef Terry has developed quite a reputation in her first year, we get people coming up from Kamloops just to have dinner and stay the night. People who don't even fish. That's nice. And that says something about our chef, because it's a hike. Yeah.
That's really cool. Can you go up there and just camp on your own, like around these lakes? Are people doing that as well?
It is a wilderness preserve and provincial park, so there is no reason you can't be. The reality is, the only other people we ever see in the park are the occasional scout troop going through on a portage camping trip. They're other than the trails that we cut and clear, there aren't even any major trails through the park. So it is very remote. And yes, you can camp in the summer, but we're at 5,000 feet, so it could snow in August. I've also been up there on the 1st of June in 70 degrees and sunny in t-shirt and shorts fishing. So or I've been up there in June in knee-deep snow. So you never know what you're going to get, and you can get all of those on the same day.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now I'll say it's quite the, when you pull into the parking lot and then you're greeted by ATV with a trailer loaded in, and you're going down this somewhat bumpy driveway into the lodge. And then when you see that main lodge sort of come into view, it's like, holy smokes, this is not what I expected to see here. It's like an oasis.
Right.
It's something to see for the first time.
There you go. I want to wrap up the Stillwater School just so we know before we jump into a couple other things here. So the school that's going to be going on is going to be basically is it 4 days of fishing, or what's that look like?
Yeah, you've got 4 days of fishing. The school starts June 12th, so people would arrive June 12th and arrive arrive anytime afternoon and sort of get oriented. Maybe go out, do a little fishing on your own. As Phil mentioned, he'll have his orientation that evening at dinner, and then it's 3 full days with Phil and Greg and on the water, and after your 4th night there, a lot of people will fish half a day before they head out on the 16th.
Yep, head on the 16th. So, and in those days, like you said, you might be out, with Phil 1 day or 2 days. You might be with Greg 1 day. You might be on your own a couple of days. So it's open. It's kind of whatever everybody wants to do, sort of thing. Yeah,
and we will have a schedule with everyone, so it's not just a kind of a chaotic point at different people over breakfast each morning. There will be, that's part of the orientation on day 1, so and so and so and so with Phil, so and so and so and so here, there, so they have an idea where they are, so they know if they want to go off and explore another lake, they can, and it's not they're not missing out on spending time with me or Greg or
Gotcha.
anything like that. So it's very organized and structured, so they really just have to go up there and have fun. That's the number one requirement. Enjoy yourself.
That's it. Okay. So it's pretty straightforward. And on the details of the, what you're getting into, let's go into that a little bit, just on a couple of tips here. So if somebody's getting ready for this, they might be doing this school, which sounds amazing, or maybe they'll just be, maybe they'll win this giveaway, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But getting prepared for it, is this a total newbie, never fished Stillwater before? Would that person be good to go if they won the giveaway, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we cater to all levels. Obviously, if you have a little experience and can cast, and the better you can cast, probably the more the more opportunity for success there is. But we will, we're happy to work with people with their casting. That's one of the beauties of this is, especially if they're on the dry fly, because you will, pick up, and cast somewhere else, and pick up and cast somewhere else. And I remember that's how my son at the time was about 7 or 8. That's how he learned to really hone his casting, was just the repetition of picking up and laying that fly down, picking it up and laying that fly down. And it's amazing the progress you can make in these kind of scenarios where you're just doing it all day long without really realizing you're doing it. You're so engrossed on the fishing. So it's a great opportunity for somebody who's perhaps new to fly fishing and wants to develop it further. And there's also lots of opportunity for the more seasoned angler as well, because we can cater, when I'm with people, I can, cater. Matt, I always ask them, what are their expectations? What are they hoping to get out of this? So we can, tailor our approach to each situation.
And I think, one of the things that has made this place so special for the people who are partners and keep coming back is there's a lot of great technical fishing. Every lake is different. There are big challenges. There are places there I still haven't fished. And I know that last year, these guys fished a spot that's within sight of the lodge on Dagger Lake that I'd never fished in 20 years. I didn't know there were any fish in that little part of the lake, and it's now one of my favorite go-tos. So there's whether you're an experienced angler or just getting going, you won't be bored.
Togens Fly Shop, providing superior quality products at an affordable price. A great resource for tying materials, tools, accessories, a whole bunch of good stuff. Justin's got things rolling over there, including a great YouTube channel. So if you want to dig into it, you can check out Togens at togens.com or on the YouTube channel, Togens. Togens offers their fly tying box, which simplifies the process, and one-stop shop, and you can get a package of goods delivered to your doorstep. We've got some good stuff going with Togens this year, and including the trivia night. So if you haven't checked that out, you can go to wetflyswing.com/trivia and enter the trivia night right now. And this is going to be a fun one. So I know Togens has some good stuff. We're going to be connecting there through that YouTube channel, as we talked about before. Since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on price and customer service, and it's time for you to check out the good stuff right now. You can go to wetflyswing.com/Togens. Take a look at their diverse selection now. That's Togens, Togens. Okay, back to the show.
Let's jump into a couple tips, and I think this is going to be fun because I know, Phil, you've given us a ton. We can go back to those past episodes, but let's jump into a little back and forth here and think of some tips as we're going here. So again, we're getting ready for this trip. Let's say the person has their gear for the most part. I guess they could probably, even if they just had a dry line and a 6-weight, that would be enough to get them going. Let's start there. Is that the case, or does somebody need a lot of gear as far as the fly lines and rods to get ready? And Phil, maybe you can. I know you've talked about this before, so maybe
you're asking the gear junkie, right? Who's got everything?
Exactly. Yeah, right. Your answer was you need 3 of everything, but yeah, just generally.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, you can do very, very well there with 5 or 6 weight, or even a little lighter if you want to go 4 weight. It depends. Wind is an impact there as well. Obviously, fish size, but there's enough to keep that going. And with a floating line, it'll allow you to fish on the surface with dries and emergers. I know Dwight's a big fan of the Timberline Emerger, so after discussions with him last year, there was a few of those stowed in my box. You can also fish, suspend flies under indicators, a very popular way to fly fish lakes nowadays. And you can just fish traditional dry line or floating line and long leader presentations with small nymphs, chironomid pupa, things like that, if they're feeding subsurface. So a floating line is a very versatile tool to have, and probably your number one line that you'll be using when you're there. So you don't, maybe a clear intermediate. And if you want to, if the fish, have decided to go off into deeper water, I'm thinking last year I had some enjoyable time on Dagger, just fishing, traditional lock style, where I brought a drogue along with me, and you use the drogue. It's like an underwater parachute to slow and control your drift, and just had a beautiful drift from one end of the lake right to the other end, because there's some beautiful long drifts there, and got to suck in the scenery and all that, and just feel small and insignificant in the world, which is good sometimes. And just cast out and retrieve, and just let the boat cover the water for you, right, while you're still casting and retrieving. So some kind of, usually a little faster sinking line with that, depending on how fast the boat's drifting. The faster it drifts, the faster the sink rate. So maybe a line that sinks at 3 or 5 inches per second. So those 3 lines. But I would say, and Dwight who's more experience up there, but your floating line is probably your workhorse line, most versatile.
Yeah, and I think you've nailed it, Phil. That I would have said pretty much the same thing in that order. I carry 5 rods fully rigged, just because I'm a gear junkie too. But that way, I've got, a sinking line, an intermediate, a sink tip, nymphing line, and the dry line. So, and that's purely because then I spend less time rigging and more time fishing.
Yep. Yeah. And that's always a good tip, because I think people, if to somebody who's new, or maybe they're not experiencing as much success as they'd like, and see other people doing it, they're reluctant to make those changes, Dwight. So they don't do it, right? And then you come off the lake, well, we switched to this. Oh, I should have done that. Whereas if it's right beside you, pick it up and go, right? As humans, we tend to be lazy sometimes, so path of least resistance. But if it's just a matter of reeling one in, hooking the fly on the keeper, putting it down, picking the other rod up, and casting, you're much more prone to doing that.
Yeah, and
I love that.
And we do have a fly and tackle shop up there, small shop, but we can certainly rig you up. If you showed up in a business suit and it was snowing, we can take care of you.
No kidding. So you have so there's a tackle shop at the lodge, or how's that work?
Yes. Yeah. We stock the office. The office end is the tackle shop, but we've got a great selection of flies for the area. There's always 3 or 4 rods and reels available, and then all the usual stuff, leaders and bobbers and anything else you can think of. And we do find that fear of missing out does motivate some purchases. Sometime when somebody else comes back with a big lunker and you haven't had a good day, it's got to be the rod, right?
Yeah. And we also, prior to the school, we put out sort of a recommended equipment list of rods, lines, flies, those kind of things. So nothing worse than somebody saying to us, "You didn't tell us that was going to happen." So we try to take as much of that away as possible, so you arrive prepared as best we can, because it's Mother Nature. She loves to throw in wild cards every now and then, just to keep you on your toes. So
gotcha. So that's the school, and that's awesome. It sounds amazing being able to fish with and learn. I mean, obviously that's a huge part of this. So let's go into the giveaway a little bit. So think of the person right now is listening, and they can enter this giveaway pretty easily. We're going to put a link out there. I'll probably have a link. I know I'll have a link at wetflyswing.com/giveaway, and that'll redirect them over where they can sign up and enter this giveaway. So what's the giveaway? What's that look like? Is that kind of what we've been talking about here? Like if somebody, like say we're talking to the person that's going to win, when they come up here, are they going to be part of this program that we've just talked about today?
Yes, the giveaway is so the fly fishing school is capped at 12 students, and so that ensures that everybody gets plenty of time with the pros. And the two of those students will be there because they won a giveaway. So the giveaway is a trip for 2, nice. all inclusive, and that's something we should say when you come to Skitchine. Your price includes everything. That's your meals, your beverages, your lunches on the water. So hot breakfast in the morning, bag lunch on the water in the day, dinner, cocktails, dinner, beer and wine, and we're allowed to say that. And then we've got boats. The boats are all there. Your contest winners are literally going to enjoy all of this, and all they have to do is show up with a smile and a positive attitude. That's it.
Positive attitude. And they're going to see Phil with his big smile, and Greg's going to be there. It's going to be a cool situation. So that person, let's take that person. So say right now the person listening has won this thing, and they're coming up there on day 1 and they're fishing with Phil. What's that look like, Phil? Like right now, if you're just thinking like where that person's going, are they heading to Dagger, or what would you be looking at?
Sure. Yeah. We're going to have that exhausting 25-yard walk to the boat launch, the ramp, hop in one of the fully outfitted boats, 4-stroke motors, anchor systems, everything you need to fish properly. So you're focused on the fishing and not fighting the boats. And we're just going to be looking for, we're going to be targeting generally the shallower areas. That's where fish go to feed. That's where the food lives. So we're going to be moving around there, targeting some of the, structural areas. There's some beautiful drop-offs there, some weed beds. Those are places we're going to look out for. We're going to be looking for signs of hatch on the water, those kind of things. Basically just got our eyes and ears open everywhere to every piece of intelligence we can gather, and just start working from there. Probably start maybe suspending something under an indicator a little bit for get a fish, and then we careful use of a throat pump, see what that fish has been feeding on, and then fine tune our presentations from there. And a lot of times you're just experimenting. So there's typically there's 2 people with me in the boat, so one person would fish one way and I might encourage somebody to fish the other. So we just cover our bases and then quickly narrow it down, and then have at her from there.
That's perfect. So there's going to be probably a couple people, you and a couple people in the boat.
Yeah, we'll see how that all breaks out, but yeah, something like that.
That's it. Okay, so you're testing some different things, and maybe you might have 3 different setups, and then whatever's working, you double down on that. Okay, and Dwight, how about you? Let's say, and I know you might not be up there every night, but if somebody was to go out there and fish on a boat with you, how would that look? Would it look different, or where would you be headed? What lake would you be going to?
Well, yeah. So we tend to get our favorite spots, our favorite lakes, and the lake that I probably favored the most is one called Couture. It's a big lake. It's a little higher elevation. And the outer lakes all have rowboats on them, by the way, because they're all small enough that you can do it. Couture is one of those lakes where whatever direction you're rowing, that's the direction the wind's blowing from. So you get your exercise.
Nice.
But there are lakes that are filled with smaller fish. There are lakes that are more trophy lakes, a little less productive, but some bigger fish. I tend to head out to Couture, and I want to get my line in the water the minute I leave the dock, because the first productive weed bed is at the dock, and head out from there. Couture is a lake where you are expecting bigger fish, and you're looking for chironomid hatches at the far end of the lake, hence the rowing. As every place does, there's a special spot, and our trophy lake is a lake called Bob's, and the partners up there will say, a good day on Bob's is when you get out there and you get in a boat. A great day on Bob's when you get out there and you actually see a fish, just a flick of a tail or a rise or a ring. And if you ever catch a fish on Bob's, that's a phenomenal day, but it will not be a small fish. We have an annual contest, the Slab Master, for the biggest fish of the year, and more often than not, it comes out of Bob's. And I think the biggest fish last year was 26 and a half inches, run around 5.5 pounds. I think by the time you get up there, I think my brother-in-law got a 28 or 29 incher a couple of years ago out of there. And I could probably introduce you to half a dozen partners who say there's no fish in Bob's. Never caught a fish in Bob's. So.
Right.
They're hiding. They're holding out, Dwight. They're holding out.
Yeah. But I've also, I've had days on Couture where you fight all day and pull in half a dozen fish. And I've had days on Couture where you lose track after 30 or 35, and these are good sized fish too. And for kids, we've got lakes where you can go out and pull 70, 10 to 12 inch fish out, just casting into the weeds.
Oh wow! And these are all, like you said, these are all wild fish, totally.
Yeah, these are all Kamloops rainbow trout that reproduce in the spawning streams. And Brian Chan was up there a few years ago, and we can talk more about the lakes because, of course, with the fires this summer, things can be different. But Brian Chan a few years ago, and Brian had helped stock the lakes when he was with BC Freshwater Fisheries Society over the years. But he said to us when he just sort of came up for a visit, he said, you guys have 5 times the catch rate of the area. And you never catch any of the marked fish that I've put in there, none of them. I think your fish just eat our fish. So we don't need to stock them anymore. Your fish are great. And it's a pretty unique place. And said because it's a wilderness preserve, and because the access is so limited, and because it's 5,000 feet, right? It's a short season, so you get these fish that are tough, and they feed voraciously. When the ice comes off the lakes, middle to the end of May, so you're getting we're getting turnover doesn't happen until the beginning of June, and in the lakes that are deep enough to turn over. And those fish, they don't have long to fatten up for winter, so they go pretty hard.
There you go.
Well, that's great. Yeah, because most times you're thinking late July through the summer months, generally in the lower elevation lakes, we refer to that as the summer doldrums, and you find other things to do because the fishing just goes off, and it's not really good sport to catch fish with low oxygen. The water temperature's high, the oxygen tough for the fish to recover. But up here at Skitchine, it's all season long, right? Because of the elevation, it's the lakes don't get subject to that same kind of stresses.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Dwight, give us your top fly if you're fishing in June, and give us a tip. Think about, do you have something to start to take us out of here?
Yeah, I think Phil already mentioned it. One of the beautiful sights from the deck at the lodge in the evening when the lake is calm and the wind is down, are the rings as the fish are coming up and feeding subsurface. And I think for the first 10 years that I was up there, I would go out after dinner and I'd look at these hundreds of fish just coming up in these rings on the surface, and I would cast anything and everything I had fruitlessly and never catch a thing. And then one day, one of my partners took pity on me, and I'm heading out there, and he said, "Dwight, take this." And he dumped a little Timberline Emerger in my hand. And it's that subsurface, whether it's a caddis emerger, whatever you're looking at, it's that when the fish are feeding just subsurface, it's great to have something that you can drag just below the water. You can cast terrazas all night long with a beautiful drive, but when they're feeding just below the surface, think emerger, think a hover line, 6 to 12 inches below the water surface, and that's probably the secret tip that I've now just given up, and it will now. My partners will now all know it. So when they listen to this episode.
Well, Dwight, I did, after talking to you before last year's event, there was more than a few Timberlines that got added to the box, because that's a traditional Randall Kaufman pattern. That's probably
nice.
in all of the patterns that are out there nowadays. Some of those more classic traditional patterns are still as good now, or probably even better than ever, because they're a little different from what everybody's throwing today, right? So that's always sometimes that's a very good thing, to throw something completely different than everybody else's.
Well, yeah, Randall, we just mentioned, I had John Shewey on in a recent episode, and he noted he just came out with a book. I think it's like the 50 Flies of Oregon or something like that, and Randall Kaufman was a big Oregon influencer, guy.
Well, he was also Randall fished all over and chased many things, but his lake, he did that book, Lake Fishing on the Fly, with Dr. Ron Cordes, and I've still got that. I don't know, it's obviously way out of print, but it's still a great reference if you can find it. If not, then you can get my book. You can get my book too.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you got a book, but we'll plug that. That's you got the Orvis. You actually have the guide to the Orvis.
Yeah.
Love it. And I can plug that for you, Phil, because so if you'll bear with me, I was talking to a fellow who runs a tackle shop in Vancouver, and I was looking for my favorite book for beginners, which was Skip Morris and Brian Chan. His book was published many years ago, and he said, I just called Brian. He says, it's out of print, and we're not printing anymore because Phil's nailed it. Buy Phil's book. It's the Bible. So there you go. Secondhand, but attributed to Brian Chan.
That was quite the humbling compliment, rather. So,
that is.
Yeah, Brian and I have been good friends for many, many, many years. Love to, we don't see each other enough. We don't get to spend as much time as we'd like to, especially in the world we're in right now. But it's he's a fantastic person. Can't say enough good things about Brian.
Brian's good. And I'll put a link again. I noted that show with him was really cool, because we broke down, if you've never been up to Kamloops before, we talk about how to put together a trip up there. Yeah. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah, very applicable.
Yeah, good. So even if people can't, I'm always thinking of that, like, even if people can't make this, if they don't win the giveaway, if they can't make this trip, how do we provide some value here? And I think we've done a little bit of it. Phil, do you want to give us a fly? I know you got a bunch of good flies, your own stuff and everything, but give us a top Stillwater fly and a top tip for today.
Yeah, I was, I fished the chironomids a lot, and they were coming off. So, some sort of chironomids, you always black and red, like a black body with a red rib is always a good starting point in 12 or 14. Black is just the most predominant pupil color. You can also do well there with a sinking line and a dragonfly nymph pattern. There's one called the Gomphus, which imitates the sprawling nymphs they're not as, I always say they have a bad press agent. The big hourglass shaped darners get all the press, but these little squat spider like Gomphus trout really like them. So we use a simple pattern that's just deer hair spun and clipped to shape with a couple of pheasant tail or hen pheasant legs. And I did well with a little damselfly nymph in around the weeds as well. So that's always a good bet. Damselflies are active little predators swimming from ambush spot to ambush spot, and like the weeds, trout like the weeds. So swimming around in front of a larger bigger, meaner kid on the block is not always a good thing. And also attractor flies too. If the fish are down deep and not willing to eat the natural stuff, you can bring out the dark stuff as well, your blobs and your boobies and babs and stuff like that, and trigger a strike. Just the way we fish those flies and just their garish nature just sort of elicits that aggressive or territorial or curiosity reaction out of a fish. So all good things to do.
And if somebody is listening here and they're maybe they've got a Stillwater Lake near them, they've never been on Stillwater, they're going there. What do you tell somebody for their first time going to a lake if they're kind of new to it? I mean, like you mentioned a little bit, maybe go to the shallows. Any other tips you would give somebody just to be generally like, okay, how do they, if they are not catching any fish, where do you start on Stillwater?
Well, the first thing I'd recommend is invest 10 to 15 minutes on the shore and sort of, be observant, look around, look for signs of moving fish, look for shucks or signs of a hatch that have drifted in, or dragonfly nymphs and damselfly nymphs crawl up on the shore, look in spider webs, take a water temperature, because trout I usually lose like 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 65 degrees Fahrenheit is that's when they're active, their metabolism will be functioning. So looking for that kind of water. Always love weed beds and areas of transition where they transition from shallow to deep, because the trout will cruise along those edges and look, have the security of deep water nearby if something spooks them, but they can make a quick little foray onto those shallow areas and have a few bites to eat. So, the beautiful thing about Google Earth nowadays is you can, and Skitchine's no exception, you can just punch in the lakes and then sort of zoom in on them, and you can see the shallow areas and those kind of things, and then gives you an idea where to go. We spend most of our time fly fishing around the edges, not too much in the middle of the lake, or if the lake's sort of typical lake shallow on the edges, deep in the middle. There's always exceptions to that too, but you're generally trying to target that water 20 feet deep or less, because sunlight penetration stimulates weed growth. And from a presentation perspective, you have lots of different options and different things you can do with sinking lines and floating lines and dry flies and indicators and lots of different options there. So, but that investment on the shore is critical. So many times I think people just so excited to be on the water, and I'm no different, but you got to temper that excitement and do a little, 10 minutes invested will save you hours of frustration sometimes.
That's a good way to look at that, because I think everybody gets so excited. Again, I'm thinking like, all right, if I was to get up there, I'd be like ready to go. And I'm curious, Dwight, for you, if you got your one of your 15 days or whatever, you're giving it to a friend of yours, and you're saying, hey, go up here and get some fish. What do you what advice do you give them when they're getting going?
Probably, and maybe this is cheating, Phil, but I'd probably tell them to stick a green woolly bugger on a sinking line and row around for a bit.
Nice.
So that'll work. That always some leech imitation.
Love it. Yeah. Now you're speaking to my style. This is old school. I love it. So that's it. The buggers still work. We just had Landon Mayer on recently too, and we were talking about his mini leech, and I was asking him like, well, this is kind of like sounds like it's the woolly bugger. I mean, it always comes back to the woolly bugger because it is pretty much the greatest fly of all time.
Everything and anything.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Yeah, and I guess to just throw one more in, a beadhead Doc Spratley. If I could only ever have one fly in my tackle box, I think that's probably what I go with, because it seems to work. And I think I introduced it to Patagonia too, because I was down there fishing for trout once, and we had a day when nothing was working. And the guides in Argentina had laughed at me when I'd showed them this Doc Spratley thing, until I caught 13 fish on one. And after that, I noticed they all disappeared out of my fly box.
Oh, there you go. There you go. What is the Doc Spratley? What is that pattern? I'm trying to think. I feel like I know the fly, but I don't really know what it looks like.
Yeah, it was a pattern that was originally invented by a dentist. I think Doc Pritchard, I think, down in Mount Vernon, Washington. And it's become a classic British Columbia pattern. It's basically a guinea, tied on like a 2XL, 3XL hook, guinea tail, a yarn body like wool originally. Now there's so many, you can dub it, you can do so many different things, but black, reds, greens with silver or gold mylar rib, a wing of pheasant tail fibers that, extends back to about the tip of the tail, maybe halfway up it. A beard of guinea, and then a little head that takes up maybe an eighth or so of the shank of peacock herl, and then Dwight's bastardized it by sticking a bead on it.
A bead?
Bead.
Yeah, he's put a bead on it.
Like a hot spot? What color bead?
Gold or silver bead. That's it's an attractor pattern. It mimics anything and everything. So it gets the job done when nothing else works.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's very. To be honest, I always, friends of mine tease me about it. It's a fly I've never done well on, and it was all. And I think it's that when I first started out, I didn't have the success others had on it, so I quickly, always, you always blame the fly, never the angler, and then I used to have a neighbor that used to use them up at Loon Lake, which is another lake in the interior British Columbia, and used to troll around with them. And I used to tie them for him. And I think I tied so many, I just got, right? So it's a fly.
Exactly.
People love to tease me about it, right? Tell, I think they do it just to get a reaction. They tell me they got it in a Spratley and watch me roll my eyes or shrug my shoulders or shake my head and walk away.
Yeah. Right on. That's cool. I love the old, the old traditional patterns. I always love getting a little history lesson. So that's great to hear. Nice, guys. Well, anything else we want to shed light on before we head out here? I feel like we've covered it pretty well today. Anything we missed?
I think, everyone deserves to know that the Bonaparte Provincial Park was attacked by the Sparks Lake Wildfire this summer. And our lodge, which sits on a peninsula sticking out into Dagger Lake, was one of the few places that survived the fire unscathed, probably from a confluence of little miracles. One of which was the fact that the highest point on our property is the water tower, big wooden structure with a 1,200 gallon tank sitting at the top. And as the fire swept across the lake and around the sides of the lake, and this was a Category 5 crown fire, so we're talking, about as crazy a fire as you can get. The first thing that caught fire was our water tower, and it burned, and the tank collapsed and flooded the property and saved the lodge.
Oh wow! Is that what happened?
And we spent a lot of time, and I got to give kudos here. The BC Wildfire Service has trained at our lodge in the spring for many, many years. We feed them, we house them, and they teach their new firefighters some backcountry stuff and how to work a chainsaw and all that good stuff. And so they were in there as soon as the smoke cleared to mop up and ensure that the buildings didn't get torched, because anybody who's been in the middle of a forest fire, and that's probably all of us in the last few years on the west coast of North America, knows. So we really, it's fascinating this year. Going to be fascinating for all of us. You can't get in there in the winter; the snow's too deep. You're not allowed to snowmobile, and it slogging through 6 feet of BC coastal powder, which is, in other words, wet snow. It's no fun. Yeah. But when we're up there in the spring, we'll have to see what the landscape looks like. But you're going to be able to witness the rebirth of the whole ecosystem. We have lakes that were untouched. We have lakes that were scorched. There's a few lakes where, although I'm telling you there's boats on 15 lakes, let me rephrase that. There were boats on 15 lakes. There's a few lakes we weren't able to get into after the fire. And I know that aluminum melts at 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. So I know it was hotter than that.
Jeez, crazy. So literally there's boats that are they're gone. They've completely melted. I've got pictures of boats that have melted, and I've got pictures of it's almost like a fossil of a boat where it vaporized. It was pretty intense in some places. And interestingly, as we were up cleaning up after the fire and getting things back in order, you get a lot of nutrients and nitrates washed into the lakes, and you tend to get plankton or algae blooms.
and no one can tell you what the short or long term effects are going to be. It can be positive, it can be neutral, it can be negative.
Yeah.
But the fishing was great after the fires.
Oh, it was.
It was, and the lodge was closed after the fires, and the partners all volunteered and went and cleaned up. But when we got a chance to throw a line in, the fish were pretty happy. So we're looking forward to this year. I think you will see beautiful and almost surreal landscapes. And I say there's places that are green and you wouldn't know there was a forest fire, and there's places where the dirt burned and all you see is granite. So
wow.
But as I said, the fish were still jumping everywhere I looked, and we caught plenty. So we'll see what spring brings.
That's it. Yeah. And for me, it is a cool, I mean, obviously fires are a natural process. So, I mean, obviously we're seeing different depending on where you're at and things like that. But no, I mean, I've seen the effects of fires and years after, and yeah, I mean, stuff comes back, right? I mean, there's going to be growth again and things like that. And, the fishing, as long as the fishing's good, that's the key here, right? We want to make sure. It sounds like that's going to be a good thing. So, so nice, guys. Well, I feel good about where we've come from today. I think if others have questions, we can direct them out to skitchine.com or Phil, all the stuff you have for taking this to the next level. Absolutely. On education. But yeah, we're going to send them right now to, like I said earlier, wetflyswing.com/giveaway. And that's going to direct people over to this page where they can sign up and hopefully, win this giveaway and get up there and do some fishing and have a good time. So what do you think, guys? Did you feel pretty good about how we covered it today?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's worth mentioning that we've got 12 spots in this school, and don't be shy about signing up. They'll go fast. And if you happen to win the giveaway, we'll give you your money back, and someone else can buy the spot that you just got for free.
Yeah.
So,
perfect.
Yeah, because last year's filled up very quickly. And so, don't dawdle, because 2 or 3 days later, everything could be filled up, which is
that's a great point.
It's just a beautiful place.
So we got the giveaway going, but yeah, if somebody's listening now and they're really interested in doing this, the best thing to do would be what would that be? If they want to, well, they can enter the giveaway for sure, obviously, but what else can they do on top of that to make sure if they want to do this trip like right now, what's the action?
The first thing they would do is email us at skitchinelodge@gmail.com. And the trip is $19.95 Canadian, all inclusive. So that's a nice, a very attractive price, particularly for American guests.
Yeah, how does that work? So we're talking, actually, we're going to get even better savings from that, right?
Yeah, with the Canadian dollars running around 79-80 cents US these days. I haven't looked recently, but think of it's on sale for our American fly fishing friends.
Holy cow! And, this is amazing. This is going to be like this is a super deal here, right?
That's about $7.50, right?
That's right.
Yeah, not that much.
And we're finally able to welcome Americans back up to Canada after a couple of years of everybody being forced to stay home. So we're hoping that lots of people come up here. We love this place. There's it's not like it's overcrowded, and so we're encouraging new visitors. And once you're up there and you fall in love with it, we can talk about becoming a partner. We also have a Skitchine Adventure Club membership, which is like a mini partnership. It's quite affordable to keep you coming back, because it is a place you come up, you know the faces, you know the people, and it feels like coming home.
Yeah, this is really cool. All right, guys. Well, obviously, this is one we could probably get another hour to it easily, but I'm going to cut it, respect everybody's time here, and we're going to get out of here. Like I said, we'll send everybody over either to Skitchine right now if they want to get in on actually signing up for the school, or wetflyswing.com/giveaway for that. So thanks again for all your time today, Dwight, Phil. This has been amazing, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing out there.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it.
So there you go. If you want to find the show notes, the links, everything else we covered on this episode today, 307 wetflyswing.com/307 will get you there. Reminder, the big giveaway is going on right now, wetflyswing.com/giveaway. This is your chance to enter to win this Skitchine trip. Or if you want to, you can just go right now and just actually get the trip for yourself. You can purchase it if you want to go over there. I'm going to be there. It'd be amazing to connect with you if you're interested. But hope you got a little bit of bonus, a little bit of good stuff out of this, and hope to see you soon. Hope to see you at Skitchine if I can. On the water. There's an opportunity on the water, or if I can't, online, I'll take that as well. Dave at wetflyswing.com. Okay, have a good one.